Welcome to the Power of Nature podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Waldo. In this show, I talk about how nature and the natural world can communicate with us, how it can communicate directly and individually with each of us, and how this can create immeasurable benefits for us in our lives. I share stories of my experiences doing this as part of a regular and ongoing practice, and I talk to others about their experiences with the power of nature as well. So join me as we go on a journey of learning about the power of nature, how it can communicate directly with us, and the impact that it can have on our own lives. Welcome back to the Power of Nature podcast. In today's episode, I'm talking about cats. In particular, how cats can show us how we can empower ourselves. So let's dive right into this topic. It's funny that I would go this long without talking about cats because I think of any animal, I've had more cats that I've been a steward of, meaning, they've been part of our household and, not just wild and living on our property, than cats. Certainly had a lot of horses over the years, but I've had more simultaneous cats and cats over the years than I think any other animal. I've had dogs, I've had, cats, other animals, horses, but cats are just kind of like, I don't know, they've been like a steady animal in my life. We had a cat growing up. I actually wasn't that connected to that cat. I think we might have gotten the cat before I was born and when I was really little. But then we did get some other cats when I was younger. I wasn't like particularly super attached to them. But since going on my own, since, leaving my house, going to college, I got my first cat of my own when I was in college and then a second one, and then multitudes of cats since then. And we have a number of cats now, too many to probably state. We seem to collect cats in batches. About 17 years ago, we had two older cats that I had gotten in my post-college days living in San Francisco. One of them I got, and then I had a roommate, she had a cat. And then when she moved out, I got a second cat to keep my first cat happy. And so we had those cats. And then when my husband and I, then boyfriend, got together, we had those two cats and we had a couple of dogs. And when we moved from California to Philadelphia, we rented a house at first, and then we bought a house. It was a what's called a half a double, which it was like 3 stories tall, and it was basically like a house that's split in half, kind of a little bit like the design of, I guess, what you would call like a modern townhouse, in that they're completely separate. They just share one wall in between. So that's what we had. And it had 3 bathrooms, and it ended up that at the time I had our 2 cats, and I was kind of looking for a distraction. We had been trying to get pregnant, had been experiencing infertility issues, and had some miscarriages, and it was tough. And I saw, we bought our house and we were working on it, and it was just my husband and I, and we had 3.5 bathrooms in this house, this half a double in Philadelphia. And I was like, what are we going to do with 3 bathrooms? Well, one day I was at the grocery store and there was a sign. It said, foster a litter of kittens, save the lives of kittens by fostering them at a time in need. There aren't enough homes for them. We need fosters. And if you have a spare bathroom, you can do this wonderful thing. Well, yeah, that was pretty much me. So I said to my husband, we have this spare bathroom and we'll just be temporary foster people. And we'll just do this. And I kind of needed a distraction and something to focus on. And so I went to this animal shelter in Philadelphia, in a very kind of not so good section of Philadelphia. And I was just horrified that these kittens were there. And I picked out a litter of kittens without their mom. There were some that were bigger, smaller, some that had the moms, some that didn't. But we thought we were going to, just temporarily have these cats and adopt them all out. So we're like, well, we'll get ones without a mom. And so that's what we did. We brought home a litter of 4 kittens. They were 2.5 weeks old. And we put them in this bathroom, this spare bathroom, and you could hold all 4 of them in your hands. Like you could kind of cup your hands together and have all 4. And they were just these amazing little cats. 2 calicos, 2 blacks. They were very fuzzy. Could hardly, they could kind of walk, but they were wobbly. And then as they got older, we got to see them do all these crazy kitten things together, playing, like the Halloween slide across the hardwood floor across the room, Halloween cat move, where they would do that like little thing where they stick their little tail up and act all scary and do all kinds of things, play with each other and cuddle with us. And, to say that we got hooked is a bit of an understatement. Of course, we still had my 2 older cats, and they ended up, accepting them and integrating the kittens. And then the time kind of started to come where it was time for these kittens to be adopted. So I checked around and I thought, well, maybe we'll just keep 1. Yeah, well, that's what we thought. I thought my sister might take 2, but then they decided they didn't want any. And then other people that I thought maybe were going to adopt some, they weren't so sure. And then I wasn't so sure. And we had become very attached to these kittens. So lo and behold, we went and adopted all of them. So we had 6 cats at one point. After that, we had the 2 original older adult cats that we had from my single days that we had kept. And we now had 4 kittens. And those kittens are now 17. One of them is no longer with us, one of the calico females. And the other 3 still are. And we ended up, we thought at one point that they were not doing very well. And that, at one point we knew we were going to kind of maybe have to say goodbye to lots of cats of the same age. It's one of the downfalls of having cats of the same age is, they're also older at the same time. So, at one point, we were all attached to these cats. We ended up adopting some other cats that were siblings as well. So, yeah, we have those cats, which we still have. And then we have the older cats, which we still have. And then if you've heard anything in my shows, I have a cat that we took in that lives in my office. She's actually right here recording with me. I call her Art Cat or Kit Cat, depending upon the day. She lives in my office because one of the other cats is not very accepting of her, and she had an injury. She was a stray, and we took her in when it was too cold. I found her on our property, and she was injured, and we took her in, and she didn't have a home, and she is now one of our cats. And now we also have another cat that is not officially like our cat. We're not quite sure, but we have a cat called Ranch Kitty that lives outside, but it's gotten colder and Ranch Kitty kind of comes in here whenever Ranch Kitty wants and hangs out. Ranch Kitty does seem to eat outside. I think she has a staple of voles and birds and things that she eats, and or maybe other houses that feed her. I don't know. But she also comes and hangs out at our house. So we have a lot of cats, and I've had a lot of cats. And the thing about cats, the thing about cats, if you're a cat person, you probably know this. They're different than dogs and lots of other animals. It's like if you have a connection with cats, they can be very affectionate and loving, but cats are no pushover. Cats are going to do what cats are going to do. And if you want a cat to do what you want them to do, maybe, you've got a cat that's like that. But in general, cats tend to be pretty independent. And I find that they are really such a good example of kind of going to the beat of their own drum. And I find that the more that I let my cats be whatever their cat self is, like I kind of get to know their personality and what they are, because no two cats are the same. I mean, if you think any two cats are the same, I don't know. We have cats that look like the two siblings of the kittens that we fostered and then kept them. They look very similar. A lot of people can't tell the difference, but their personalities are completely different. Their mannerisms are completely different. I have never had two cats be the same. I've also been the kind of person that, stray cats come up to me on the street, or I go over to friends' houses and their cat that never comes out to anybody comes out and hangs out with me, and they're like, my cat has never done that. And I'm like, yeah, I know, I'm a cat person. And the thing is that I think that at some level, if you're a cat person or you do well with cats, there must be some way in which you accept your cat being kind of like its own being, right? It's like you let them be. You let them be themselves in a way. You celebrate that. And when a cat knows that you do that, when a cat knows that you don't need them to be a certain way and don't require them to do certain things, they give their love freely, is what I've found. Even when they are, wild and feral or were once or whatever, they learn to trust. They learn to trust you. And this is something that I think is so key for that I feel like can benefit us in how we can learn to empower ourselves. In this show I talk about how nature can communicate with us. And what I really find is that nature is a conduit for how we can kind of receive communication from our own inner self to ourselves. Like our own deeper knowing and awareness. It's like our own deeper knowing and awareness, our inner self is in sync with what is at the root of nature. And our own inner self can communicate with us through all aspects of nature. Trees and birds and cats, and horses and mountains and grasses and the weather, the wind, the fog. I've talked in episode after episode about how I've learned things. Nature has communicated to me things that have been really helpful for me. And so too with cats, because what I find is that cats can often be such a great teacher of understanding how we can empower ourselves. Empower ourselves, which means just letting ourselves be okay as we are, respecting ourselves, taking care of ourselves. Cats are such good examples of that. Have you ever seen a cat? Like, they know how to take care of themselves. Cats, if they sense, danger, they don't stick around. They're not gullible. They will protect themselves. I'll never forget when I was a kid that my grandfather on my dad's side, he was kind of like, by this age, he was kind of like this little old Italian man, seemed, all harmless and whatever. But he did not really like cats. I mean, he wasn't mean to them or anything like that, but he had no affection for them. And I don't think he had ever had a cat, so he didn't know what to make of it. And we had the cat that I had growing up, which, like I said, I wasn't super close to, but that cat, when my grandpap, we called him Grandpap, when Grandpap would come and visit us, Grandpap didn't really like the cat. Like I said, he didn't do anything. He wasn't mean or whatever, but he also wasn't friendly. He wasn't like open. He didn't he didn't kind of like respect the cat. And well, what happened? Well, the cat multiple times took a dump in his shoes to let him know right back how that cat felt about him. It's like his energy was communicating that he didn't really like the cat, and the cat let him know right back with, cat communication methods, that it didn't really like him either. And my grandfather was not happy about this thing, but I always remember that. And I kind of feel like, as a kid, I didn't really like cheer the cat on. But later I kind of realized, that's a smart cat. That is a cat that is not afraid to, kind of stand up and communicate. And, like I said, my grandfather, I don't think was mean to the cat, but he might have not been nice, and he might have been kind of mean in a certain way, the cat wasn't like looking to like lay on him or have to be near him or anything like that. But I think that my grandfather did really make it clear that he didn't like the cat. And the cat kind of like didn't just take it. And I'm not saying, the message here is cats can teach us how to empower ourselves, so we should go and take a crap in somebody's shoes that we don't like. That's not what I'm saying. But I do think that the metaphor here of the cat is that the cat was like, you may not like me, but I don't really care. And I don't need to like you either, is kind of what the message was. And I find that this is what cats often do. Cats are not pushovers. Cats stand up for themselves. Cats also, when you engage with them and when they trust you and they realize, that you let them kind of be what they're going to be, they can be incredibly affectionate. Not because you get to choose, they're going to sit down right now and you're going to, you're going to pet them because you've decided, but they're affectionate. Just, they kind of come over. Like right now, I am recording in my studio. And I started and I was just kind of looking out the window. And what is happening now? Art Cat has settled herself on my lap. She was nowhere around when I first started. But she settled herself on my lap, and I am scratching her ears as I'm recording. And she's purring and she's really happy. And it feels really nice to have this cat on my lap. And I've experienced this over and over again with my cats. My cats, when I accept them and I love them as they are, they give me that love right back. And I really have found that empowering ourselves, that the path to empowering ourselves comes from listening to ourselves. And listening to ourselves comes from honoring ourselves, valuing ourselves, realizing there is something to listen to, realizing that we do have value, having respect for ourselves. If anything there is to learn from cats, it is how they value and respect themselves. And that is how I believe that they teach us or become an example of how we can empower ourselves. Because to empower yourself from the inside, I don't believe that it comes from out. I believe it comes from within. And I believe it is a flowing of the power that already is inherent in us. But many of us, I believe, have believed that our power, our value, our energy comes from the things that we do or the things that we get or the things that we do for others without realizing we have it inherently when we're born. It is part of our nature. It is our power. It is our own creative life force energy. I talk about this in all of my shows. If you want to learn more about this, check out, more episodes of this podcast, Power of Nature, but also check out my other podcast, Creating from the Inside Out, Embracing Our Creative Power. And I also have 2 horse-related podcasts where I use horses as an example of talking about things, but all of what I talk about in there pertains to all kinds of other things. So I have a podcast called Riding from the Inside Out, listening to our horses and ourselves. And I have a podcast called Horse Girls on a Budget, creative ways of pursuing our passion and connection with horses. In all of these things, the common thread is that I talk about listening to our inner self. And I talk about how we can empower ourselves from the inside out. And the process of empowering ourselves from the inside out, I believe, comes when we believe that we have value within ourselves inherently, that we have an inner self that is valuable and to be valued, that we actually have a experiences and deeper awareness and wisdom that we can tune into by listening to our inner self that is very helpful in guiding us in navigating this thing called life. And when we do so, I find that we are much more in sync with all aspects of life, including all of nature. We feel a deeper connection to nature, and to animals, and even can feel a deeper connection to other people, because when we start living in this way, I find that we empower ourselves. And when we empower ourselves by listening to ourselves, it's like we give ourselves this freedom to listen to ourselves, and that gives other people freedom to do them. It's like we're doing us and they do them. And, as long as they're not hindering us doing us, we can allow them to live and let live, And I think this is what cats do. A cat is independent. They do their own cat things. And then they come and they share their beautiful love. And we can have a moment of an experience with a cat. Some of my favorite experiences with cats are when cats just decide they want to, my cat or any cat really, but when they decide they just want to come to me just because they do. And I consider it an honor. I consider it an honor when they come and they sit on my lap, or they come over and they sit next to me, or whatever it is that they're doing just to be with me. To me, there is something so centering about having a cat on my lap, or having a cat next to me, and having the cat purr and petting the cat. And it's like, even if I'm scratching their ears and petting them, energetically, they're giving back to me as much as I'm giving to them. It's like cats know how to do that. And I think this is such an example for we people, because I find that the more that I know how to listen to myself and, practice listening to myself and practice empowering myself, the more I find that I'm in sync with myself, in flow with my own energy. And then when I am just doing that, I find that not only does it feel enjoyable to me with what I'm doing, but I find that other people tend to really engage or find, it's like they resonate with me most when my energy is like that. It's kind of like my cat. It's kind of like my cat sitting on my lap. Like I'm scratching their ears, but they're giving out as much energy to me as I am giving to them. But it's not a giving away out of need or have to do or lack. It's like a filling up your own cup, and then the cup is overflowing with extra that gets shared out. I feel like cats are so good at filling up their own cup. And they share so many examples of ways in which we people could learn to do that. I mean, have you ever noticed a cat taking a bath? Have you ever noticed how much pride they take in like washing their paws? Or have you ever noticed how much a cat just kind of like when they're like laying down or they're sitting, they just can look so pleased. Cats, I believe, have really mastered the art of appreciative living. They know how to do that. They also aren't afraid of, facing their emotions. Like They're not afraid. Like if there is something scary, they're not going to deny that, and they're going to hightail it out of there or defend themselves. If they have to go onto the offensive, they will if they need to. But usually a cat won't engage unless they're provoked. I think there are so many things that we can learn about cats. And this is just, I'm talking about domesticated cats. Cats in the wild are a whole different story as well. I mean, I love all cats, not just domesticated cats. I love tigers and lions and mountain lions and panthers and cheetahs and snow leopards, and the list goes on, because I feel like there is this amazing spirit in cats, whether domesticated or wild, of taking care of themselves, of empowerment. I mean, really, let's kind of look and think about this. I mean, okay, yes, tigers and lions are big, but there are lots of cats that aren't that big. They're fuzzy, they're cute, they can be prey. Pretty much what they have are claws and teeth, but they are able to take care of themselves. They're able to nurture themselves. They're able to respect themselves. And I think there's so much that they can illustrate, things and practices and ways of being that I find to be very helpful as a person, very helpful to kind of learn and to kind of see that we could engage in those practices as well. So here's to the cats. Here's to all the cats that I've had, all the cats that I'm sure I will have. Here's to all the cats that I've said goodbye to in physical form, but I know they're still with me. And here's to all of the cats in the world. I appreciate you. I appreciate cats. I appreciate what they are, and I appreciate what they teach me. And maybe if you're listening to a podcast episode about cats, maybe this is something you're open to appreciating as well. So, if you want, the next time you're looking at your cat, look and see what your cat might be teaching you. Look and see what your cat might be showing you. Look and see what your cat might be inspiring you to do that empowers you or could empower you from the inside out. Because I think cats do a pretty amazing job of doing just that. And I'm going to end on that for today's episode. Until the next time. Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of the Power of Nature podcast. To learn more about me and my other offerings, you can visit my website at michellewaldo.com. That's MICHELLEWALDO.com.